Monday Fun Day right here on the early line, and my goodness, what a weekend it was. And if you extend it back, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, amazing college basketball action, but more on the horizon. This week, we're ready for the Sweet 16. We're ready for the Elite 8. We are also ready for Major League Baseball opening day on Wednesday between the New York Yankees and the San Francisco Giants. And away we go into the month of April, which leads us right in to the Masters. It's a perfect time to be here with us right here on the SportsGrid Network. It's the early line. It's Donnie Rightside. It's Joe Ranieri. We got you for 2 hours. Settle in, people, because we got topics after topics after topics, Joe.
Good to be back with you, Donnie. And yes, it is once again the most beautiful time of year. A lot still to come here over the next couple of weeks. So a lot to go over here to start the week.
And some people might have stayed up late last night because games tipped off close to 10 o'clock last night, which is ridiculous. So you might need to get your caffeinated Joe right now. And also the hottest topic of the day delivered to you fresh right now.
All right, Donnie. Well, the greatest postseason tournament in all of sports is once again living up to its name. They call it Madness for a reason. And the opening weekend now in the books. And the biggest shocker of them all, well, the defending national champion Florida Gators, the #1 seed, got absolutely bounced and smacked by a 10.5-point underdog in the #9 Iowa Hawkeyes. But maybe the biggest takeaway from this first weekend isn't just the upsets on the court. It's the harsh reality that college basketball has officially entered its professional era, Donnie. And these universities are learning a very expensive lesson. Just because you have a massive bankroll of NIL syndicate money to spend does not mean you know how to spend it wisely. And just look at the absolute disaster that is the Kentucky Wildcats. Mark Pope and the Kentucky Boosters reportedly spent $22 million on this year's roster. $22 million. And what was their return on investment? Well, they needed a late-game miracle just to survive a smaller conference team in Santa Clara, only to turn around on Sunday and get absolutely shredded by an Iowa State team, oh yeah, that was missing its best player. So if you are spending $22 million to get run out of the gym in the round of 32, you did not build a basketball team. You bought a really expensive circus is what you did. And we have seen this kind of futility in professional sports for years, especially in baseball, where teams just throw money at big names with zero regard for chemistry. But we never thought we would see it in college athletics. And yet, here we are. Kentucky learned the hard way that you cannot just play fantasy basketball. Mark Pope completely botched this roster construction. He built an offense that relies on, well, a shooting #4 and the three-point shot, but forgot to pay the guys who can actually make those shots. He spent roughly $4 million on a player coming off an ACL tear who barely played this year. You had guys pointing fingers, standing around, and blowing a 7-point lead in 90 seconds because, well, the pieces simply did not fit together. To make matters worse for Big Blue Nation, they now have to sit on the couch and watch their ex, John Calipari. Oh, yeah, he's leading Arkansas into the Sweet 16. Mark Pope's seat is officially scorching hot. And next year is a prove it or pack your bags because he has currently, Donnie, you ready for this? 0 recruits committed for 2026, which means he's going to have to get a head start on that transfer portal and figure out where to overspend again. College coaches have to be professional general managers now. You cannot just collect expensive talent. You have to build a cohesive team. So just remember, Donnie, the old saying still holds true. Money doesn't buy you championships, especially if you have no clue how to spend it.
That's all right, Mark Pope. Just go over and say, I need $40 million next year if you want me to get to the Sweet 16, and maybe Kentucky and Big Blue Nation will help him out. And by the way, here's Mark Pope post-game.
It all, and I know you guys had big injuries, but did you maybe learn anything from a resource allocation standpoint from the season?
Well, we've heard so many numbers go around that it just is, we live in a really interesting world. I think that I think we were disappointed that we never got to run with the roster that we thought we had. These guys did an amazing job adjusting. You think about DA came here with one responsibility in mind and one framework for a team, and had to transition through the whole course of the year to be a player that he did not come here to be, and that goes with a lot of guys on our team. We didn't get to play the way that we planned to. We didn't get to play with the personnel we planned to, and all of that changed. And I think our guys raised up, and they made the very, very best of a complicated, difficult situation, roster-wise and health-wise, and I couldn't be more proud of them. Their response has been incredible. So, we didn't get to do anything the way we had planned or constructed just because of health situations, but these guys still left us with unbelievable moments and memories, if not getting to the ultimate goal.
Wow, didn't get my full roster here. As Joe pointed out, Iowa State, without its best player, routed you. Duke's down 2 starters. They ain't having too many issues right now as they continue to move on. What, injuries don't happen, Joe? Come on.
Donnie, I smell BS. That's what I smell. That's nothing but excuses, right? You can't spend that kind of money and get bounced out the way they did. Just can't do it. Sorry. No excuses.
Talking about the hottest topics across the sports landscape, Joe, we get to the early lineup, and that includes down goes Frazier. Florida gets beat by Iowa 73-72 in a game that came right down to the wire. Iowa making maybe the biggest shot of the tournament so far. They knock off Florida. What an impressive run here for Iowa now as they head to the Sweet 16.
Just terrible for Florida there. They had every opportunity in that game. They got punched in the mouth by Iowa early. They did recover, but when it came down to it, Iowa made the plays when it mattered the most, and Florida's going home.
And don't you give me St. John's as that true fifth seed here. Moving on to the Sweet 16. Needed a late layup to get it done, but the Johnnies and Rick Pitino into the Sweet 16.
Man, watching that game was like setting basketball back 100 years, Donnie. That was 2 of the worst offensive teams that I have seen in a while, except Kansas was that close to stealing one. But kudos to Pitino and the Johnnies off to the Sweet 16. That's a tough team. Styles make fights. That's a tough style for a lot of teams moving forward.
Jerry McNamara is supposed to be the savior now for the Syracuse Orange here. He's going to be the new head coach, and they better bring that NIL. They're going to need it there as well.
Yeah, well, you know what? Good hire. I mean, what a job he did at South Florida. I think he's going to do a great job at Syracuse with more money to spend.
Matt Painter here, head coach. 500th win as they advance after a victory over the Miami Hurricanes, Joe.
Yeah, kudos. Well done there.
Yep.
Miami gave it everything they had, but Matt Painter gets it done, off to the Sweet 16.
Hubert Davis in some trouble. Duke has all that mojo going and nothing the past couple years for UNC. They're going to discuss their future, which means either that says an NIL that's going to go through the moon, or Hubert Davis beat it. Can't go any other way.
Yeah, Hubert Davis, Mark Pope, 2 programs that do not take losing, and losing early very well. So, yeah, the seats are getting hot, Donnie.
Christopher Sanchez, new 6-year deal with the Philadelphia Phillies. And good on the Philadelphia Phillies because that contract was ridiculous for one of the best pitchers in baseball. They got over on him and said, you know what, we understand that. We're not going to make free agent money for you, but here's about $100 million you could pocket now. Good for the Phillies.
Yeah, great. And they're going to need him this year in a big, big way, Donnie. So hopefully he lives up to the money.
Take the microphone away from Cam Scatterboo because he says nonsense and then constantly has to apologize. Just take the mic away and play football, kid.
No, keep put more microphones in front of him. The guy is absolutely hilarious, Donnie, on so many different levels.
Ovechkin with his 1,000th career goal. Maybe sticks around for 2,000 career goals.
Yes.
When is that guy going to hang him up? Maybe never. Joe and Donnie in the morning on a Monday. We'll be right back after this short break. Today's spread lines here that you need to know on a Monday. What an awesome weekend it was overall in sports, and it seemingly only gets better now. Big-time opponents, Elite Eight, Sweet 16, Major League Baseball. We'll get to it all, but there's something still, Joe, called the NBA that's rocking and rolling right now, and we'll get to that right now. It's the San Antonio Spurs and the Miami Heat going to do battle tonight. Overnight is around a minus 6-point favorite here. It's now dropped to 5.5s and 5s across the board. The Miami Heat and the San Antonio Spurs tonight, total listed at 240.5. We're expecting points tonight. Spurs on the road as the favorites, Joe, against the Heat. What's that spread line for you?
Do you realize, Donnie, the San Antonio Spurs are 21-2 since February 1st? That is unbelievable. That is the best record in the NBA during that span here. And they're going to look to continue that in Miami against a Heat team who has not done well. They lost a heartbreaker there to Houston last game. Now 4 in a row that they have lost. Now they're in danger of looking at the play-in game instead of locking in the top 6 spots. But boy, oh boy, I mean, 5 is the number right here. And it appears that I'm seeing, Donnie, we're still stuck at 5, which I think is interesting. I thought for sure we would have seen some San Antonio money in, but it appears Miami will have everyone back here tonight. Wiggins will be back. They'll have Norman Powell back. So it kind of looks like there's no more sitting on the bench, even if you have an injury. It's put up or shut up time for Miami, who's been better at home. I don't know that they'll win, but it feels like the 5 points might be worth taking a shot with here tonight.
We got a great spread line in this next game here. It's the Lakers and the Pistons. Lakers been on fire, winning 12 of 13 games. They're on the road as a minus 2-point favorite right now against the Detroit Pistons and a total of 226.5. One of the things that I get a kick out of, Joe, and let's just call it college basketball, right? Okay, time doesn't matter the whole game. Once you get under like 2 minutes, you got to check the monitor for every 0.1 seconds. But apparently, the 0.1, 0.2 seconds don't matter before the last minute happens. Luka Doncic get it 16 technical. He's supposed to sit this game out. And of course, they go, well, let's review this one. Yeah, you know what? The Lakers are doing really well. You got a marquee game. Yeah, rescind that technical foul. Why didn't they rescind the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, 10 techs that he had? Always when you come up against suspension, it always gets rescinded here. Lakers are the favorite on the road, Joe. Your spread line tonight for this game.
Yeah, well, apparently the back and forth that he had there with the Orlando big man, apparently they have, I guess, some audio of what was actually said to Luka. And yeah, they said, you know what, on second thought, it's okay. But the reality is, listen, they're red hot. They've won, 4 straight on the road, Donnie. It's not just an LA thing where they were winning at home. They're winning on a road. They had a 3-point buzzer beater against Orlando last game to get it done. Now they got to travel to Detroit, who's a little angry here, but they've won 3 straight. They've won 6 of their last 7. And oh, yeah, they're not going to have Cade Cunningham steal here. So this is going to be a very good litmus test, I think, for both these teams. Can Detroit handle a team from the West in a postseason without Cade Cunningham? And it's one thing to beat the Orlando Magic. Can you beat the Detroit Pistons on their own home court? Luka in, Donnie, we haven't seen a whole lot of movement outside of the 2.5 that we're looking at right now. Are we stepping in front of this LA train? I think tonight might be the night.
Could be the night here, but also, Joe, we are setting ourselves up for an unbelievable Sweet 16 here. Iowa, Nebraska, a little bit of a downer. The rest of those games, absolutely fire. And that starts right here with St. John's and Duke on Friday, 7:10 Eastern. A 6.5-point favorite right now. Live lines here for Duke. You see some 7, 7.5s in the marketplace, Joe, and a total of 142.5. Let's get it on, man. St. John's, Duke here. What are we looking at from a spread perspective, Joe, when we get there on Friday?
Well, we're going to look at an absolute heavyweight fight, Donnie. This is going to be the rock fight of all rock fights here. But the problem is Duke is a much better offensive team than St. John's. And anybody who watched that game yesterday against Kansas knows. The problem is St. John's is going to play bully ball. And, yeah, Duke is going to be in for a battle here. I think there's a pretty good opportunity, Donnie, that the first one to maybe 65-70 wins this game. The problem is, I don't know it's going to be as close as the Johnnies hope. The Johnnies got to make threes. That's their only path to winning this game. I just don't see them making enough of it for Duke.
Another great one here, SEC versus the Big 12, a 10-10 start anticipated on Friday night. That's Tennessee and it's Iowa State. That line opened up at 3.5. Some outlets now as high as 4.5 points in the marketplace, Joe, in a total of 138.5. Tennessee and Iowa State. And the question also, Joe, are we getting back our superstar player for Iowa State in this game or not? Seemingly didn't matter against Kentucky. What's your spread line for this Friday night game?
Yeah, Jefferson wasn't available for him yesterday. He was still in a walking boot. I don't know that he's going to be available for any time, but they're only traveling about 5 hours from Ames, Donnie. This game is in Chicago, right? So there is going to be a big contingent of Iowa State fans in this one. But Tennessee finally starting to live up to the hype here. They've got one of the best freshmen in the country. Virginia gave them everything they had. It wasn't good enough. And listen, Iowa State, if they play the way they played against Kentucky, going to be tough here for Tennessee to get it done. I'm going to be interested to see where this money goes once we have a better understanding on whether Jefferson, their best player, is going for Iowa State or not.
Now, the Friday night games, Joe, 10-10 start, 9:45. I'm okay. It's the weekend here, even though some people still got to get up early on Saturdays. The Thursday night games, Joe, one game's going to start at 9:45, which means 10 o'clock, and the other one starts at 10:05, which means 10:20. Great basketball teams here that half the nation will be fast asleep before that game even starts. We have to make changes to that, no doubt about it, Joe, but also changes are going to be made coming up. Why? Major League Baseball, people, starting on Wednesday night. That's the New York Yankees on the road to take on the San Francisco Giants. Max Fried going up against Mr. Webb. Total this game actually rising a bit. You'll see the graphic come up at 6.5. Some outlets have now gone to 7, but the favorite still, the New York Yankees on the road. Baseball on a Wednesday to get it started, Joe.
Yeah, could you imagine to start the season at 6.5, 7? But I can tell you what, Donnie, with those two guys, first 5 under for me, there is no reason to think the bats are going to come out swinging in that ballpark for a night game on opening night. I think we might be in for at least early an old-fashioned pitcher's duel going to take center stage in San Francisco.
I love me some overs, but boy, opening day, you're getting all the aces out there, people. Buyer beware. We'll be right back at this short break. More fun on the early line.
Defending national champions. In Division II, I was fortunate enough to win a national title, and then we actually got beat in the first round, which was pretty rough. But they got back to the 1 seed and had a spectacular season. Got a lot of respect for their program. As far as my guys go, they're just tough. That's all it is. They're just tough kids. They fight. They compete. They stick with it. They exemplify everything that we've wanted in Iowa basketball. They've established the foundation that we desperately needed, and couldn't be any more proud of them.
Obviously, a disappointing result for us tonight. Credit Iowa. Thought they played well, especially in the first half. Had us on our heels a little bit. I thought they were physically tougher than us in the first half, and took a little bit for us to regain our footing, and then they got off to a good start in the second half. And really proud of our guys and the way we fought. Obviously came back and took the lead, got up by as many as I think we were up 3 or 4 at one point late in the second half, and just did a poor job executing on both ends in the last 2 minutes. I thought, obviously on the last play, we wanted to take a foul to prevent them from getting off a 3, and they got away from us. We weren't able to take it, and they knocked it down, so credit to them for that. And just a tough way to go out, but really proud of my group. I love these guys. They did a great job for us all year, gaining the second 1 seed in a row. And a tough one for us to swallow. And, we'll be thinking about this one for a while.
Yeah, come on now. You can't be thanking the team there for getting dropped when you're one of the favorites to win the national championship. I get what he's saying. And also, foul. What do you mean they got away from you? Hack the guy and get to the free throw line, win that basketball game. But credit Iowa. Knock down that late 3-point shot, 73-72. Iowa, Joe, moves on. Stunner.
Yeah, you can thank them all you want, Golden, but your approach to that game was awful on so many levels. You allowed Iowa to dictate the pace and tempo and what was happening in that game, which is why you were behind early. And, by the way, you got dragged into the mud by McCollum. He basically outcoached you is what he did. And, by the way, McCollum with the absolute greatest line of the tournament so far regarding the double technical fight and scrum in the first half. When they asked him about it on the sideline, he says, everyone just got a little bit sensitive over there, meaning on Florida's side there. I thought it was the line of the tournament, Donnie. And, they were a little sensitive that Iowa was punching and Florida wasn't punching back. And ultimately, they dragged you into the mud and you weren't able to get out of it. And that is why Iowa, a 9 seed, could it be the Cinderella of the tournament right now?
By the way, Joe, we couldn't even make it out of the weekend with any perfect brackets out of millions and millions and millions of people. So Cal, she's like, hey, we don't have to pay out $1 billion for a perfect bracket. Nobody was ever going to do that here. And then there were none, it says, Joe. No perfect brackets remain here. Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, well, again, 10.5-point favorite is what Florida opened up with there against Iowa, a 1 versus 9 seed. Oh, yeah, by the way, Donnie, they were playing in Tampa, right in the backyard there with a place filled with nothing but Gator fans. It just a terrible, terrible coaching job by Golden there. But, hey, live and learn. Congrats to Iowa. They deserved it.
Let's bring up this field of 68 tweet here, Joe. We're betting men. We're handicappers here. If I would tell you right now, Joe, bet on this. Did it go in or did it not go in? I'm a betting man. I'd be like, heck yeah, that went in. That shot's good here. Well, apparently it wasn't because Nebraska's moving on 74-72 in their game against Vanderbilt. Husker Nation moving on. That's a tough pill to swallow where you're like, oh, so close for Vandy.
Yeah, Donnie, listen, anybody that has ever stepped foot on a golf course and needed to make a 6-foot putt has had that exact same thing happen to them. How many times, Donnie, where you just watch the ball go around the hole and around the... And there it is, and it doesn't drop. And that was exactly what that shot reminded me of.
Gonzaga, hey, fire Mark Few. We saw that going around here from a couple sports books. You know that's not going to happen. But Texas catching fire. Could it be, Joe? First 4 to Final 4 as Texas moves on, knock it off the Zag, 74-68.
Texas is that team, Donnie. We've seen it all the time in March Madness where they get hot at the right time. And that right time is inside the tournament. Don't forget, they had a play-in game. Yeah. So They have been rolling and playing, winning is contagious. And right now, Texas, they're just tough enough and crazy enough maybe to pull off one more win here.
Maybe if Kentucky had Coach Cal, they'd be moving on as well, just like Arkansas and ACUFR, 94-88 over High Point. By the way, shout out High Point, man. Love that offensive structure they had, Joe. But they'll be moving on. And also, Sparty moving on with a victory over Louisville. Woo-hoo! Week 16 on the horizon. We'll be right back.
I don't like to overthink it, Kevin. I really don't. And similar situation, I feel the same way when it comes to betting. I find like that Sunday night, so, you're watching the NFL games, and all of us do it. Like, all right, let's look to next week now. You know what I mean? That Sunday, like, the dust is settled on the game. They just end, and so I'm like, let's look at next week. My first reaction is always the best reaction.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Why the regular season, Joe, does mean something, because Detroit is going to get a back-end team in the East to begin.
Yes, and it does. And it's just a very strange situation, unfortunate situation for Cade Cunningham in Detroit. But the good news is, if you keep playing teams like the Washington Wizards, well, you're not going to need Cade Cunningham to win those games like they did last night.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
We are really starting to see that slowdown, and we're anticipating it with March Madness this year. Obviously, you don't have as many states going online. Gone are the days when you're adding 10 states every year, so the numbers would inflate that way. And you mentioned prediction markets taking money as well. One firm, HG Gambling Capital, estimates that they'll add about another $500 million in bets.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
You can put your skill and your luck to work on Kalshi. Why? They're offering $1 billion here. If you can pick the perfect bracket, sounds easy, Joe. Just pick the perfect bracket, get $1 billion.
Yeah, I think the odds of actually doing that, Donnie, are about the same if you're expecting to hit the Powerball lottery 6 times in a year.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
Early's boys moving on. Cronin's boys going home. And probably Mick Cronin was upset. I cannot believe it. We're UCLA. We play on the West Coast. How did we wind up in Philadelphia? That's an unfair advantage. How could you ask us to possibly win this game in Philadelphia? Well, we asked you to do that, and you didn't even come close. 73-57 victory, Joe. A hammer job by UConn as they advance into the Sweet 16.
Yeah, experience matters, right? And Caravan there with a monster effort, much like Reed had the first game for him against Furman. And is there any more experience than what we got going on with UConn right now? I mean, they've kind of been overlooked here a little bit because they were a little shaky in games down the stretch this year. But, hey, the reality is UConn, the Big East, alive and well here along with the Johnnies. Should be very interesting, that East bracket, I think, over the next week.
Yes, it should be. Let's head to the post-game pressers here because both of these coaches love themselves some microphones, Joe.
A program of UCLA's caliber, coached by, not only Mick, who's one of the great coaches in the game, but just, one of the best staffs too. And, obviously we're fortunate, that, maybe their best player doesn't play in the game and we get Silas back. And obviously Silas gutted it out before he asked the minute restriction. It was 20 and we went a little bit over that. But, I just thought this game was all about, Tarris's workman-like performance, Braylon, stepping up, big-time performance as a freshman in a big spot. And then just the greatness of the man next to me, just should be celebrated at all corners of the media. And I know he's going to start, look, he's getting uncomfortable right now. But yeah, I mean, this man's greatness and what he's done in college basketball the 4 years. I mean, like literally every outlet should be doing a story on this man and just his career in college. It's no one's been better in college sports the last 4 years in terms of being a winner. So thank you, Alex.
Congrats to UConn. They were better than us tonight. Our guys gave the effort. We couldn't score the ball. Can't win. Can't score, can't win. That's a lot of their defense. So you got to give them credit. And they get to play next week, and we get to go home. So let's get it's midnight, so let's bang out some questions.
Look at that. It's midnight. What are we doing at midnight here? Never should be midnight on the East Coast here when you just finish up a basketball game. But he's right, Joe. Can't score, can't win at this point, which brings us to our next game. Used to be can't score, can't win against Virginia's pack line defense. Apparently, you could score fairly easy against Virginia now. 79-72 final. Tennessee, without the extra E, moving on into the next round, Joe. How do you like that?
Yeah, give Virginia credit. They hung around. I mean, Tennessee came out swinging first, and Virginia made a nice run there in the second half. And it was, back and forth, a couple of plays, one way or the other here is really what the difference was. But this kid Gillespie here, who's had now 50 points in 2 games, he had 29 against Miami of Ohio there in that opening game. And again, last night, he was just carried them. And Ahmed, too, the freshman. Tennessee's got everything you could. They got experience. They got one of the best freshmen in the country going. They got a lot going on for them. But, the problem is Tennessee's history at Rick Barnes. At some point, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop here. And I think that's what everybody is. But great job against Virginia. And kudos to the ACC for at least making a run at it, as long as your name is not Duke, that is.
There it is, Duke holding the crown here for the ACC with a championship try here. Let's go to the post-game press conference show and hear what the coaches were saying.
Funniest thing I've ever been involved with. So we're going to run a play, but they got fouls to give.
All right.
And Bells comes up to me and says, run power, which is a high back screen pick and roll. So I walk away. I said, okay, power. I walk away and said, wait a second. He hasn't scored a bucket, and he wants to run a play for himself. And then I'm thinking, as I'm walking, I said, but he's Bells. And not only did he do it, he went with his right hand. So I'm real proud of him, because to want the ball when you haven't made a shot is unbelievable. So both of these guys had major impact in us winning tonight. I'm so happy for St. John's and the fans. We had great fans out here. And we get to go to D.C., and I'm just so jubilant, so happy for the fellas. We've taken it another step now, so it's just awesome. Proud of our guys, and now it's just starting. The fun's just starting.
The tournament is one of the things that makes it so great is that it can be great, but it can also be cruel. And, we obviously put ourselves in a position to play from behind the whole game, and then really competed and played great down the stretch, and just didn't finish what we had started down the stretch. But certainly disappointed, sad for our guys because they tried so hard. But just a tough afternoon.
Questions for the students?
Sweet 16 action coming up, Joe, just the way we like it. So, there's no Cinderellas here. Trust me, the networks don't want the Cinderellas in here. And I always say this, Joe, the Cinderellas are so much fun when they're playing the teams that they might be able to knock off until they knock them off, and you don't get games like St. John's taking on the Duke Blue Devils here, which we are going to have coming up. But in the meantime, Joe, we got Thursday at 9:45. That's Arkansas and Arizona. Fantastic stuff. Athletes on top of athletes here, and the ratings should be sensational. I'm telling you, Joe, why are we starting these games like this at close to 10 o'clock or after 10 o'clock at this point? Do we not want rating? Do we not want people watching great basketball? Help me out with this.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you got the that side of the bracket out west there. And so that's going to be the problem, Donnie, that 3-hour shift. But listen, I can tell you right now, I don't care what that number is. Good luck sweating out an under between Arkansas and Arizona here. A-Cup is an absolute machine right now. It's going to be very good. And I know Arizona can play some defense, but I know Arkansas is not going to be playing any defense. And something tells me we're going to get a few points in that game there. And shout out to Utah State, who gave Arizona a run in that second half to come back and make it a game. But ultimately, you know, the Mountain West was not going to the Sweet 16. Who are we kidding?
How about this one, Joe? Illinois going to tee it up against Houston, 3-seed, 2-seed here. Exactly what we wanted. But again, a midnight watch party that's going to start after 10 o'clock Eastern here, where most of the nation will be fast asleep when one of the best games is going to be played. Hey, Joe, why don't we play the Super Bowl at 10:30 on Sunday night? That makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, don't give me any ideas, Donnie, because that could very well take center stage there. But listen, Houston doing exactly what we thought they would do. Illinois, by the way, doing exactly what we thought they were going to do here. This is going to be interesting here. The Big Ten has had a ton of success so far in the tournament. This is going to come down to whether or not Illinois can make enough shots against that Houston pressure defense. We're going to find out here, Donnie, but it feels like Houston's going to get anything they want inside the paint, and it feels like Illinois is going to be taking a few shots from the outside here to see if they can't upend what everyone thought was going to be Houston's bracket anyway. Why? Well, look at the Elite Eight, Donnie. I believe it's in, actually, Houston from that point on.
And how about this? You know where you're going to get ratings? Placing a game on a Friday night at 7 o'clock and putting Duke on there versus St. John's. Fantastic stuff as this is going to line up, Joe. This game will be the marquee game of the weekend, and I demand this one will have the highest ratings of the weekend. Am I wrong, Joe? Am I wrong here?
Oh, no, and it might also have the fewest points of any game this weekend, Donnie. I can tell you that. That is going to be a heavyweight fight to the end. And anytime you have Pitino on the sidelines of the Sweet 16, as an underdog, no less, it's going to be fun to watch.
Some more Blue Bloods going to get it underway, Joe. Michigan State and UConn. That'll be Friday, a late game at 9:45. But that's okay. It's Friday night. We're built to stay up late here for the weekends here. 135.5, Joe. Sounds like a rock fight to me as well. College basketball this week. Buckle up. We got you covered on the SportsGrid Network. We'll be right back. Short break.
I don't like to overthink it, Kevin. I really don't. And similar situation, you know, I feel the same way when it comes to betting. I find like that Sunday night, so, you know, you're watching the NFL games, and all of us do it. Like, all right, let's look to next week now. You know what I mean? That Sunday, like, you know, the dust is settled on the game. They just ended, so I'm like, let's look at next week. My first reaction is always the best reaction.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Why the regular season, Joe, does mean something, because Detroit is going to get a back-end team in the East to begin.
Yes, and it does. And it's just a very strange situation, unfortunate situation for Cade Cunningham in Detroit. But the good news is, if you keep playing teams like the Washington Wizards, well, you're not going to need Cade Cunningham to win those games like they did last night.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We are really starting to see that slowdown, and we're anticipating it with March Madness this year. You know, obviously, you don't have as many states going online. You know, gone are the days when you're adding 10 states every year, so the numbers will inflate that way. And I mentioned prediction markets taking money as well. One firm, HG Gambling Capital, estimates that they'll add about another $500 million in bets.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
You can put your skill and your luck to work on Kalshi. Why? They're offering $1 billion here. If you can pick the perfect bracket, sounds easy, Joe. Just pick the perfect bracket, get $1 billion.
Yeah, I think the odds of actually doing that, Donnie, are about the same if you're expecting to hit the Powerball lottery 6 times in a year.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
Abrams tanks have pulled up in Washington, D.C. And no, that doesn't mean that what's happening in the Middle East is going to happen here at this point now. It just means that the tank is on for the Washington Wizards. How about this press release, Joe? The Wizards say Trae Young does not need surgery, but is out indefinitely with quadricep and back injuries. I think the NBA's got to step in and get those MRIs, Joe. No?
How is he hurt? He hasn't played. How is he hurt? Like I don't usually have to play games in order to be able to have those kinds of injuries. Like what'd he do? Hurt himself sitting down on the sideline? Like I just, the NBA is just head scratching. They should just stop and just give all of these tanking teams, just give them the L's and let's start the postseason already, because this is absurd.
That's great, man. Isn't it? Like, hey, we got Trae. He's pretty healthy. No, he's not, but he is. He's going to come back. No, he's not. We got to send it a press release. The NBA's like, fine. Just send the check to us here. Here's the postage, the envelope that you can send with the stamp already on it. Just include your check for $1 million in tanking, and we will accept it here. Kevin Durant, he's moving up the list, not tanking here. 32,293 plus points, 5th all-time, Joe, on the NBA all-time leading scoring list. That's pretty impressive for KD.
No, well, listen, I mean, the guy is one of the all-time, greats here of his era. I mean, he's always been a scoring machine. So, and that's, listen, anytime you can pass a guy named Jordan on the all-time anything list, that's pretty impressive, Donnie, to say the least. But, hey, Durant, how about carrying Houston over the finish line here? That would be great, too.
In front of him still, Kobe Bryant, Karl Malone, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and LeBron James here to see if he can keep climbing up that list. The San Francisco Chronicle sending out a story here. Golden State Warriors guard Steph Curry, who's missed 20 consecutive games with a lingering knee injury, could return as soon as Wednesday here. Steph coming back to help Golden State.
Yeah, no, I'll believe it when I see it. Who are we kidding here? For what? What are you coming back for? I mean, they've been an instant fade now, Donnie, for how long? The Golden State Warriors here. And yeah, I know Steph, you can't bet him, but I don't know that even if he comes back, he's got enough to do anything. So they won't even beat the Mavericks tonight. How's that?
Yeah, I'm like, Steph's coming back, maybe late run. I missed 20 games. He's probably going to come back for one game, back to the IL, and away we go. Did we have high expectations once Butler went down for Golden State? No, we didn't here. But here's a story I love, Joe. We touched on it a little bit earlier in the show. I get a kick out of this. I do. The NBA has rescinded Lakers star Luka Doncic's 16th technical foul, allowing him to play Monday's road game against the Detroit Pistons. So apparently, again, we don't care about 1 through 15. It's only 16 that goes to review. So apparently you'd have to knock a guy out or kill a guy on the court to get that 16th technical foul. Precedent set. Superstar players in a big game that we need for the NBA television rights? Take that tech away. Why was the tech even called in the first place then?
Well, exactly. I mean, it was called because Doncic got into the guy's face after, according to Doncic, he made some comments about him and his family. At which point is how he reacted. But I guess somebody had a microphone somewhere, Donnie, that backed it up because. Or they just said, somebody from the network called and said, "Are you kidding me? They're coming up on Prime. There is absolutely no way Doncic can be suspended for this game."
You got to give credit to some of these guys that do get out of these entanglements, as we say. Like, we remember back a guy swinging a helmet in Myles Garrett and Mason Rudolph. You're going to get thrown out of the NFL. Say, he said this. And they go, okay, we're not going to prosecute, and you might just miss 3 or 4 games at this point. Same thing with Luka. Well, what did you say to him? That's when he said something about my family. No, I didn't. Well, we can't prove it there, so we got to rescind the technical foul. Just make it up or say, deny it till death, as we like to say at this point. Make stuff up. It should go in your direction here, which brings us up, Joe, to the Lakers. Red hot. 12 out of 13 here for them. They're the favorite on the road, taking on the Pistons. 226.5 is a total. Is it another Lakers victory on deck tonight with Luka? Does Luka get a 16 tech and get thrown out of this one and then get it rescinded for the next game?
Well, listen, Lakers finally healthy here, and Detroit is not, obviously, with no Cade Cunningham for the foreseeable future. But, they still have won, 3 of their last 4 games here. Detroit still the top team there on the east side of the bracket. But the problem is, when is the last good Western Conference team that, Detroit has been able to go up. They can't beat San Antonio. They can't beat Oklahoma City, right? Anytime they get challenged by the top on the West, the top teams on the West, I'm yet to see them elevate here. So congratulations for beating up the Eastern Conference teams, but I need to see them go toe-to-toe here with the Lakers. These teams, these top three teams in the West, congratulations with the number one seed in the East, but I'm not buying it until I see them come out and punch back, Donnie, and they just have not done that versus the West yet.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, see if you can make it through the East. And there's a lot of teams here that are playing possum right now with injuries and holding guys back. And once we get to the playoffs, we'll see if that makes some sense. But also, take the Draymond approach here if you're Luka Doncic. So you get that tech. They're not giving you a second tech. Draymond will yell at the ref first quarter, get a tech, and then say the next 3 quarters, I'm going to berate every referee because you won't throw me out with a second technical foul. Same thing with that 16th tech here. Nobody wants to give that to Luka, and they probably won't the rest of the way. We just gave you a story that said on Wednesday, Steph Curry's expected back. Well, today's only Monday, Joe, and he won't play tonight. The Warriors are on the road to take on the Dallas Mavericks, but they are the favorite here, Joe. Opened up around 3 overnight. Now we're sitting at 2.5 and even as low as 1.5 across the board in the total of 230.5. Warriors on the road as they wait for Steph to come back later this week.
And how hilarious is this, Donnie, right? The Golden State Warriors have an opportunity not only to help their playoff chances, but they can eliminate Dallas from postseason contention if they win this game tonight. Can you believe that? They can knock out the Dallas Mavericks with their 23 wins. Apparently no postseason for Dallas here this year. Shocker.
What do we got tonight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 total games, which includes, Joe, my Philadelphia 76ers at home taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. And that spread over 2 touchdowns despite the Philadelphia 76ers being the home team here. Maybe they're just going to play possum. Hold Embiid out. Hold Paul George out with his suspension. Don't worry about Maxey. We'll all appear for the playoffs, and everything will be hunky-dory. That's the way we get down to business in Philadelphia. More business on the horizon as hour number 1 rolls along right here on the SportsGrid Network on the early line.
I don't like to overthink it, Kevin. I really don't. And similar situation, I feel the same way when it comes to betting. I find like that Sunday night, so, you're watching the NFL games, and all of us do it. Like, all right, let's look to next week now. You know what I mean? That Sunday, like, the dust is settled on the game. They just end. So I'm like, let's look at next week. My first reaction is always the best reaction.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Why the regular season, Joe, does mean something, because Detroit is going to get a back-end team in the East to begin.
Yes, and it does. And it's just a very strange situation, unfortunate situation for Cade Cunningham in Detroit. But the good news is, if you keep playing teams like the Washington Wizards, well, you're not going to need Cade Cunningham to win those games like they did last night.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We are really starting to see that slowdown, and we're anticipating it with March Madness this year. Obviously, you don't have as many states going online. Gone are the days when you're adding 10 states every year, so the numbers will inflate that way. And you mentioned prediction markets taking money as well. One firm, HG Gambling Capital, estimates that they'll add about another $500 million in bets.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
You can put your skill and your luck to work on Kalshi. Why? They're offering $1 billion here if you can pick the perfect bracket. Sounds easy, Joe. Just pick the perfect bracket, get $1 billion.
Yeah, I think the odds of actually doing that, Donnie, are about the same if you're expecting to hit the Powerball lottery 6 times in a year.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
Major League Baseball starts this week. Hallelujah. I love it. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, into November in the World Series, and away we go. Everything starts up on Wednesday night. But we saw the WBC. It was fantastic action, but also had some awkward moments, like Cal Raleigh going like, I'm not your teammate right now. I'll be your teammate in a couple weeks here as we get our season started. How about Randy Rosarania? He was upset at the WBC, but recently added these comments. Quote, I understand that with opening day a few days away, I don't want to be a distraction. Cal and I have talked, and I apologize for what I said after the game. Nothing in the WBC takes away from the fact that we are brothers and we are teammates here. There you go. Harmony in Seattle, Joe.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's, water under the bridge. It's a long season, and something tells me, though, Donnie, this didn't start in the World Baseball Classic. Something tells me those two guys probably don't like one another to begin with.
Nah, come on, man. Brothers in arms at this point. Joining forces for the Seattle Mariners. Time to get back to the business here for Seattle. We'll see. They're a good baseball club. They have high expectations this year. You didn't want to have any animosity in the clubhouse, and it looks like for now, Joe, they are playing nice. I'll tell you who doesn't play nice, and it's the Pittsburgh Pirates. Hear me out on this. Connor Griffin, one of the superstars of spring training, even though he only hit like 194 at this point. But he is a player that the expectations are he should be a stud for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Baseball, the only sport on the planet that goes, hey, you know what? Keep these guys down as long as possible so you don't have to pay them. So I always like to say, can you imagine the Las Vegas Raiders coming up in the NFL draft? They draft Fernando Mendoza. Fantastic. He's our quarterback of the future. And the Davis family goes, Coach, sorry about that, Clint. You came over from Seattle. You draft this guy number one. You ain't going to see him for 3 years because we don't want to pay him too soon before he plays here. Baseball is so stupid, and Connor Griffin is in the minor leagues. And, Joe, we're not talking about a team. Let's just say that's the Dodgers going like, yeah, we're trying to put our best players out there in day number one because we're going to win a championship. The Pirates aren't going anywhere. Why are they not playing their best players to get them seasoning at the Major League Baseball level?
Yeah, all right. So he hit 171 in the Grapefruit League, but he did, I think, 7 hits, and 4 of those 7 hits were home runs here. Not to mention, he's a vacuum at shortstop there, Donnie, and he's only 19. At the very least, he would be, I mean, we have not had on the opening day a teenager. I think Adrian Beltre in 99 was the last one. Griffey Jr. before that. So, yeah, and what exactly is it? You're replacing him with a guy that was a no-name draft pick in 2020 that can't hit either. So what is the difference? Play the future while you can, Donnie. I'm with you. Makes no sense.
Here's Craig Counsell also talking about some injuries here to the Chicago Cubs on Suzuki missing opening day. How about this one?
What is it? It is Saturday. It is Saturday. And, I think there's, we are definitely, opening day it's not going to happen. We're not going to be ready to play on opening day. We've got to make a decision kind of once you get past opening day, we've got to make a decision. Does it just make sense to give them some time? And we got time to make that decision, but that's kind of where we're at.
One of the highest, if not the highest paid manager in Major League Baseball. Riveting stuff there. Not going to be ready, Joe, by opening day.
Yeah. No, and listen, long season. I mean, in some cases, Donnie, it makes sense to slow pay. Let them get healthy here. Plus, that's kind of a down division this year anyway.
Oh, no. How can the Mets survive? Mike Tauchman getting an RBI, an MRI. I'm already in regular season mode right now for Major League Baseball. Knee issue as the Mets face a key opening day roster decision. I don't really think it's all that key here, Joe, for the season, to be honest.
Yeah, no, key. No, it's just another decision, and one in which eventually the Mets will figure it out before it's all said and done. Donnie, we know this. That's why we love the Mets here, because we know that key decision, they'll make the wrong one. We know this.
How about this decision? Now, a lot of people do have Netflix, Joe, but I always seem to think that, okay, when you have a marquee game to open up your season, you want as many eyeballs on that game as possible for ratings and to get the people excited. Shutting off maybe a couple million people who don't have Netflix here, they won't be able to watch the New York Yankees and the San Francisco Giants. I'll be watching, Joe will be watching, but I can't stand the fact you have a marquee game opening night that you want everybody to watch, and you got to go to an app to watch it. Tough times.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and their defense, they have been promoting it now for the better part of, I don't know, a year since we knew this game was going to be on Netflix. Plenty of time for folks to go get that Netflix subscription and watch the game.
Baseball, people, coming up Wednesday. Love to see it. We'll be back for hour number 2.
I don't like to overthink it, Kevin. I really don't. And similar situation, I feel the same way when it comes to betting. I find like that Sunday night, so, you're watching the NFL games, and all of us do it. Like, all right, let's look to next week now. You know what I mean? That Sunday, like, the dust is settled on the game. They just end. It's all right, let's look at next week. My first reaction is always the best reaction.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Why the regular season, Joe, does mean something, because Detroit is going to get a back-end team in the East to begin.
Yes, and it does. And it's just a very strange situation, unfortunate situation for Cade Cunningham in Detroit. But the good news is, if you keep playing teams like the Washington Wizards, well, you're not going to need Cade Cunningham to win those games like they did last night.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We are really starting to see that slowdown, and we're anticipating it with March Madness this year. Obviously, you don't have as many states going online. Gone are the days when you're adding 10 states every year, so the numbers will inflate that way. And you mentioned prediction markets taking money as well. One firm, HG Gambling Capital, estimates that they'll add about another $500 million in bets.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
You can put your skill and your luck to work on Kalshi. Why? They're offering $1 billion here. If you can pick the perfect bracket, sounds easy, Joe. Just pick the perfect bracket, get $1 billion.
Yeah, I think the odds of actually doing that, Donnie, are about the same if you're expecting to hit the Powerball lottery 6 times in a year.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
Hour number 2 officially underway on a Monday right here on the Early Line SportsGrid Network. Donnie, right side, and Joe Ranieri coming up in this hour. We got some fun on Prediction Markets Edge. You love that, going over to see who's actually in the lead now to win the NCAA Championship. We'll get you updated on that. And also, Kevin Walsh is going to join us here, host of Game Time Decisions, 6 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. with Gabriel Morency right here on the SportsGrid Network. So good times to be had by all, Joe. But let's start here. The tournament. Oh, no. Where are the upsets, Joe? I need some explanations here on what's actually going on. Straight up favorites here, ATS winners, and totals, Joe. If you're just leaning one direction, and that's a pretty good band here, if you don't say the least here, but you're making some money, apparently.
You're making big money, Donnie, and despite everyone hoping and wanting for the dogs to be barking, once again, the chalk is leading the way. I mean, when you look at this, Donnie, now straight up favorites, 39-9 on this tournament here. Even look at the ATS for the favorites, 27-19-2. They are not only winning, even the big favorites, they're winning, they're covering. Last night alone, Donnie, favorites went 7-1 straight up, 6-1-1 against the number. And of course, the big one was Florida getting bounced by Iowa there. But other than that, it's not only been extremely chalky, as we head into the Sweet 16 here, Donnie, look at the conferences that are left here. We've got the Big Ten, 6 teams. SEC has 4 teams. The Big 12 has 3 teams. You've got the Big East with 2 teams. And you got, of course, the ACC and Duke, right? You know how many teams you got from any other conference, which means mid-majors? 0. And I can't even call Texas coming in at number 11 as the only double-digit seed left. I'm not calling them any sort of Cinderella, nor am I calling number 9 Iowa Cinderella. But the reality is, those mid-majors, yes, they were fun. They gave us some great moments. But once again, Donnie, when you look at these teams and what conferences that they come from, yeah, mid-majors and Cinderella, it's a figment of your imagination. They don't win national championships. The big boys do.
Exactly. And it was, what's it been, an 8th seed that won it 50 years ago, it feels like, when you line up there, the Villanova Wildcats. But understand this as well. And I say this time, like, it's for when the upsets happen in the moment, they're fun until you realize they ruined the next game. Like, we could have had Kentucky and Duke in this game, but now we got Kentucky and Siena, let's just say. So I love the fact, and ratings will show this weekend. These games are phenomenal. And I don't mind the mid-majors not making it past, day number 1 of the tournament, because it does pay dividends down the line. If you're looking at the Final Four, there's a reason why. Hey, do you remember, JMU, or what was Larinaga's team? Was it JMU? Who was it? JMU? No, it wasn't. George Mason. Excuse me. George Mason. Excuse me. Like, hey, they're in the Final Four. You know what you say there? Put them the early game, because nobody gives a damn about that game being played. Put the better game late. Let's get to a Final Four. It's like, whoa, that's a tough decision on who's going to play first or play second at this point. I'm enjoying the tournament as is, Joe, and also putting together my bracket. I did want to fade the ACC outside of Duke, and that's certainly now working in my favor here. But St. John's, a 5th overall seed, felt like they've been disrespected, Joe. They're finding themselves now in the Sweet 16, and they take on the mighty Duke Blue Devils next. Great game, great layup, and as Joe says, it was a rock fight. Nobody could score, but St. John's still moving on.
Yes, they are, and kudos. Somebody was going to win that game despite both teams shooting awful. And if I'm Kansas, I'm having a hard time this morning, Donnie, because that might have been the worst game that they played the entire season, and they still had a chance to walk away. You cannot allow a guy to have a straight line shot right to the bucket there without anybody coming over and helping him. Just inexcusable for Bill Self and Kansas at that point.
Sounds like the Philadelphia Flyers right now. Why would I be talking hockey? Well, we're talking Syracuse basketball, keeping it in-house. Hey, Boeheim here. Let's go over to Autry. Oh, Autry didn't work. Let's go in-house again to Jerry McNamara. I'm not saying it won't work, but it's interesting that they are not going outside of the Syracuse family. Jerry McNamara coming over to be the next head coach of Syracuse. Let's see what he's got.
Yeah, listen, I think he did a great job there with South Florida. I love the fact that Syracuse knew what they wanted, went out and got him here, and I think it's going to be good. I think there is no excuse for Syracuse not to have a competent and competitive basketball team. And the amount of money and support that they have, Donnie, you just need the right guy to put it all together. He did a great job here in South Florida. I'm looking forward to seeing Syracuse. College basketball is better when Syracuse is good, Donnie, no?
By the way, Joe, South Florida, Siena, very close together here. The S's get us tripped up, but
Siena, yes, you know what I mean. Yes.
I know exactly what you meant there. But when you're in that state, maybe it's like, okay, I'm just going to move up the ladder. I don't mind this move at all. I hope it works out, because that'd be a good thing. When Syracuse is good, it is better for college basketball. Get those big crowds up there in the dome and see if they can do some damage. Matt Painter, 500 victory, and it came against the University of Miami. 500 wins for Matt Painter as they move on to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, you got to love that, too. But keep waiting for Matt Painter. And, you've got a couple of coaches that remain where, they always get to the Sweet 16, even the Elite Eight, Donnie. But at some point, you're waiting for that shoe to drop here. Maybe this is the year with Matt Painter. I mean, they are playing some of their best basketball right now, Purdue. But a lot of it has to do with who you're going up against. And Purdue's actually got a pretty good path, I think, from here maybe to a championship.
Will there be a press conference today on Chapel Hill down there in North Carolina? No, it won't be Bill Belichick stepping away from the football team. Could it be Hubert Davis gets let go? High-level management meetings now, Joe. Big business down there on Tobacco Road to have a good basketball team. What's going to happen?
I mean, between him and Pope, right? I mean, you can't get bounced out the way that you have. What is that, 2 years in a row now for North Carolina to get an early exit here, and you can't even make it out of the first weekend? I mean, that is not North Carolina. Now, granted, Caleb, that losing your best player wasn't great, but come on, you're North Carolina. You should have more than enough to be able to make it to at least the Sweet 16 here, Donnie, and that's 2 years in a row they weren't able to do it.
Still living off Michael Jordan, went to play at North Carolina 40 years ago at this point. Christopher Sanchez, he might be playing into his 40s with the Philadelphia Phillies. Well, at least to his mid-30s as they extend him 6 years off a contract where they didn't get over because he didn't know what to expect from Sanchez, but they basically had him under rights for like 2030, making pennies on the dollar. Good on the Phillies. That goes a long way in the clubhouse here. Sanchez gets his money.
Yeah, and they're going to need him, Donnie. Let's face it. They're going to need a few things here. They're going to need Nola. They're going to need Sanchez. They're going to need that bullpen. They are going to need him to have a big year, which I think he will, Donnie, especially at home. Anybody better at home than him?
Yeah, maybe we'd be called the Sanchez, too. Like we used to call Mark Sanchez when in town Sanchez, but maybe this is the new Sanchez at this point. Cam Scattaboo, he's out there making jokes about CTE. And by the way, this is a guy that uses his as a battering ram, saying that CT isn't real. He probably thought it wasn't real and then got a backlash. Now he has to apologize. Isn't that the way it usually works?
It's always the way it works, But I got to tell you, I mean, he is very amusing because he's sharp as a marble. And the things that a lot of times come out, you're laughing and scratching your head. But that's, that's what you get with him. So more microphones. Just keep getting more clips from him.
I mean, who had a worse weekend, him or Chapel Roan at this point as we move on to Alexander Ovechkin's 1,000th career goal? The man's a scoring machine, Joe. I think I was in diapers when he scored his first goal.
Yeah, and I just turned, 60? That's impressive there, Ovechkin. Been doing it for ever, Donnie, ever. He's been, and you know what? Likely running it back again next year. Who are we kidding?
But is he going to retire to a league where somewhere him and Jaromir Jagr get to play together on the same line at this point? Could be. But this guy is ageless and still a very good player. It's interesting to watch him play. It's like the Tom Brady of hockey. How long is he going to go? How many goals will he score? But coming up next year, it's going to be Kevin Walsh from Game Time Decisions stopping by on a Monday. We'll see how his weekend went. We'll be right back after this short break.
I don't like to overthink it, Kevin. I really don't. And similar situation, I feel the same way when it comes to betting. I find like that Sunday night, so you're watching the NFL games, and all of us do it. Like, all right, let's look to next week now. You know what I mean? That Sunday, the dust is settled on the game. They just end, and so I'm like, let's look at next week. My first reaction is always the best reaction.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Why the regular season, Joe, does mean something, because Detroit is going to get a back-end team in the East to begin.
Yes, and it does. And it's just a very strange situation, unfortunate situation for Cade Cunningham in Detroit. But the good news is, if you keep playing teams like the Washington Wizards, well, you're not going to need Cade Cunningham to win those games like they did last night.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We are really starting to see that slowdown, and we're anticipating it with March Madness this year. Obviously, you don't have as many states going online. Gone are the days when you're adding 10 states every year, so the numbers will inflate that way. And I mentioned prediction markets taking money as well. One firm, HG Gambling Capital, estimates that they'll add about another $500 million in bets.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
You can put your skill and your luck to work on Kalshi. Why? They're offering $1 billion here. If you can pick the perfect bracket, sounds easy, Joe. Just pick the perfect bracket, get $1 billion.
Yeah, I think the odds of actually doing that, Donnie, are about the same if you're expecting to hit the Powerball lottery 6 times in a year.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
Come on, come on. It's fun. It's a Monday. It's the early line. It's how we do business here, Jeff. On Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Build up to the NCAA Tournament. Still worrying about your brackets at this point? Well, let's see how they've done. Sonny right side, Joe Ranieri, and Kevin Walsh. For me, Kevin, Florida didn't make my Final Four. Where did Florida go for you this year, Kevin?
Oh, I thought they could win the national championship this year, Donnie. And, I mean, I think they were capable of it, but man, that was a disaster yesterday. And a lot of people were conflicted on Todd Golden saying the plan was to foul up 2, send Iowa to the line. They can't beat us with a 3. They're like, that's crazy. Who would do that? That's not the problem. The problem is that you somehow couldn't execute that game plan. Florida is the one who called the timeout, by the way, not Iowa. Before that, what would be game-winning shot, to set up a defense to foul whoever caught the ball, and Bennett Sturts, within 1 step of catching the basketball, had 3 Gators behind him. That's where they went wrong. Oh, it was bad.
Yeah, and make your free throws, and then we wouldn't have had this problem. That would be the other thing. But just amazing to me that Golden allowed Iowa and McCollum to dictate the pace and the style of that game from the opening tip there. They never once got Iowa uncomfortable or played Gator basketball. What happened to the transition game? Nothing. It was they got dragged into the mud, and they did exactly what Iowa wanted to do. And that's why Iowa won the game. They made more shots when it mattered the most.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I think Florida started to push in the second half where they're like, whoa, why'd we do that? But it's very hard to spot a team, a double-digit lead. Iowa's not awful. Right, Iowa has, some big wins within that conference, at least one over Nebraska, ironically enough, who now they'll play in the Sweet 16. I think it's a Florida team who had the makings of a national champion, but they also can't shoot. Like, we know they can't shoot, so it's very interesting. I'm fascinated to see what decisions are made by a team full of juniors. Because they could come back and open up around 5-1 to win a national championship next year. But every single Florida game is filled with Jimmy Dykes telling me that Thomas Houck's a lottery pick, which, again, I get it. But, all right, so I guess Tommy Houck's gone. We'll see.
By the way, if you guys didn't know out there, Kevin, as a kid, used to walk across the street, the Carnesecca Arena, catch some of those St. John's games here. And now St. John's moving on to the Sweet 16, Kevin, going up against the Duke Blue Devils here. So I need the vibe and the temperature of Queens coming together for St. John's to take on the Duke Blue Devils.
Yeah, I will just acknowledge a tweet from former, current, still friend of this program, John Rothstein, who said Dylan Darling will never pay for another drink in New York City. I'm pretty sure there are countless bars he will never be able to get entrance into. I think there's a handful of New Yorkers. If I say, do you know who made the shot on St. John's? They have absolutely no idea. I appreciate this. I appreciate the sentiment, pal, but Dylan Darling's bar tab is far from settled just because he sent St. John's to the Sweet 16. I do think it's fascinating, though, man. Like, all the analytics and metrics that they're supposed to have settled up for these things. Everyone was like, I cannot believe that St. John's is a 5. They play a 4-seeded Kansas team. They're 3.5 point. They didn't even cover, which is funny enough, on a 2-point win here. We'll see if St. John's can make shots. One guy was able to make threes, and it was Bryce Hopkins, who you wouldn't expect in the game against Kansas. if it went to overtime, it felt like the Jayhawks had all the momentum, but most of their guards spent 37, maybe 35 minutes of that game having no idea what they were doing other than Darren Peterson.
Head scratching across the board there, Kev. But the question is, I mean, somebody is Sweet 16 now. We got an 11 seed with Texas. Who's your favorite here? Is it still Duke? Who do you think can really win this thing now?
I think for a while I have viewed Michigan as the best team, even like through, picking Florida in a bracket. Some of that was just strategy, if you will, a little bit there. I think Michigan playing Alabama might be a nightmare for the rest of the country, because the scariest version of Michigan is one who scores 95 every game. I mean, they start with what? 85 against Bama and go from there. I mean, so the world where Michigan can just get on an absolute run surprises no one. I think the biggest question in that region is, what is the real Joshua Jefferson timeline? Is he actually going to possibly play against Tennessee, against the winner of Michigan, Alabama, or is his tournament actually done, but we're going to Kawhi Leonard this thing and ask about it before every game?
Sweet 16 coming up here on Thursday. Elite 8 on the weekend. Great basketball lining up here. I love the fact, look, I need the majors in here. You're going to get some great ratings and some great basketball games that we'll watch. But tonight, Kevin, those Los Angeles Lakers winners of 12 of 13 games here. Fantastic stuff. Luka Doncic saying, you know what? Nobody's ever going to give me a 16th tech again. And if they do, I'll just get it rescinded to play in these big-time games. But the question is, LeBron and Luka may be best friends right now. Lakers on their way here. Could it be LeBron? Another 3 years for the Lake Show? They're the favorite tonight, Kevin, against Detroit. What are we feeling about this one?
Man, it is fascinating that the Lakers are right now first place all vibes in the NBA, because that certainly did not feel on the board for this basketball team. Winners of 9 in a row, 12 of their last 13. And even the win streak, right, started a little bit of without LeBron and people being like, better without LeBron. And no, they're not. So while I would lean towards the Lakers, the reason they are booked as road favorites is because Cade Cunningham is out. It opens up a little bit of value on a Tobias Harris rebounds prop, something to keep your eye on. Averages a little over 7 a game without Cade Cunningham in the lineup this season.
Now, what are we thinking for opening night here on Wednesday? Aaron Judge, 0 for 3, 3 Ks. Yanks go down. Fire the manager again. Get it all going, Kevin, opening night.
Fire the manager again. Donnie, they might lose the game 7-2 and extend him. What do you mean fire the manager again? That guy's going nowhere.
Baseball, baby, in our life. That's Kevin Walsh here. Join him on Game Time Decision, 6 p.m. tonight right here on the SportsGrid Network.
I don't like to overthink it, Kevin. I really don't. And similar situation, I feel the same way when it comes to betting. I find like that Sunday night, so you're watching the NFL games, and all of us do it. Like, all right, let's look to next week now. You know what I mean? That Sunday, the dust is settled on the game. They just end, and so I'm like, let's look at next week. My first reaction is always the best reaction.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Why the regular season, Joe, does mean something, because Detroit is going to get a back-end team in the East to begin.
Yes, and it does. And it's just a very strange situation, unfortunate situation for Cade Cunningham in Detroit. But the good news is, if you keep playing teams like the Washington Wizards, well, you're not going to need Cade Cunningham to win those games like they did last night.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We are really starting to see that slowdown, and we're anticipating it with March Madness this year. Obviously, you don't have as many states going online. Gone are the days when you're adding 10 states every year, so the numbers would inflate that way. And you mentioned prediction markets taking money as well. One firm, HG Gambling Capital, estimates that they'll add about another $500 million in bets.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
can put your skill and your luck to work on Kalshi. Why? They're offering $1 billion here if you can pick the perfect bracket. Sounds easy, Joe. Just pick the perfect bracket, get $1 billion.
Yeah, I think the odds of actually doing that, Donnie, are about the same if you're expecting to hit the Powerball lottery 6 times in a year.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
We having fun on a Monday? Of course we are. It's the early line. Get your week started in style here, and by the end of the week, you can have baseball Elite 8 Sweet 16 action. Everything you need, as we said already, too. Lead up to the Masters, then all of a sudden we turn into the NFL Draft. Good times ahead, and maybe some better weather, here, on the East Coast. But, Joe, before we get into giving the people the best bets and checking out the Fade the Public, Luka Doncic here. Here's his press conference. Let's hear what Luka had to say.
Luka, I know you've been really focused on not picking up that 16 technical. You got called for one tonight for talking to Goga. Just what happened there, and are you hopeful in some ways that you'll be able to play on Monday?
I'm definitely hoping. Obviously, I let my team down. Getting that last stack. But honestly, I wasn't trying to. He said it free to he will my whole family, and at some point. It's his basketball court. At some point, I just can't stand. I got to stand up for myself. But I know I got to do better. My teammates, I know they have my back, so I let them down today. But I hopefully you get rescinded.
Now, by the way, in what context would that guy say that he was going to blank his whole family? Like, what? Like, do we even believe this at this point now? Or is this like, I know I messed up, but if I say this, they'll rescind it? Because they like to rescind it anyway on the superstar players once they get to their limit. It always happens.
Yeah, and the best part was, they kept pointing the finger. One guy says he was making fun of my mother. The other guy says, no, he was making fun of my mother. The reality is they were probably in each other's grill the entire game there, Donnie. And ultimately, it was Luka that blinked. But, again, given the situation here, the NBA and the networks, pretty big matchup here tonight. They were not going to make Luka have to miss this game because of it.
Absolutely not here. Now's the time of the program. We like to reach out to the people and see what they have to say. Here's our Fade the Public poll. And it deals with the NCAA Tournament. For me in Florida, I didn't even have them making the Final Four, so technically for a bracket, that's actually going to work out in my favor. You know who I did have win a championship listed? That's the Arizona Wildcats, who currently here 38.5% live as the favorites at plus 330. Second place, Michigan. Third place here, other, and then also Duke listed here, Joe. Who do you have cutting down the nets now that Florida's out of it?
Yeah, it's tough not to like Michigan here, but I think ultimately I think Arizona has the best team, but I do think that Michigan is going to have an opportunity here to cut down the nets and win a national championship. It's one of those two for me, Donnie. I don't think Duke is going to overcome the injuries enough, and eventually they're going to get caught.
Boys are back in town here for some best bet winners. Last week, I was on the show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We were 6-0. Now it's time to repeat that feat this week. Here's our best bets. Bye. Ready to go, Joe? The floor is yours to start the week off. Where do we head for a best bet?
Yeah, listen, I know it's going to be crazy, right? That you want to step in front of a team that's only lost 2 games since February 1st, but that's exactly what I'm going to do here because the Miami Heat at home, boy, they need a win. But it looks like they'll have Jaime Jaquez back here tonight. Looks like they'll have Wiggins back. They will have pretty much their full complement back on the court. They've had to back and forth with the injuries. They don't want to be in the play-in game, Donnie, and they need to start winning some games. I think they're going to give you the best effort here tonight at home against the best in the West as far as I'm concerned. And yes, it's tough to go up against Wembayama and company, but there are some question marks. No Stephen Castle, maybe no Devin Vassell tonight. I think Miami is more desperate, and I think you're going to see that here tonight. So I'll take the 5 with Miami at home against the Spurs.
Like to see it with only about 25% of the tickets coming in on this Miami Heat. A public fade, I'd love to see it because you know where I'm going next, a public fade as well. Usually I take a really bad basketball team. I'm not going to do that tonight. The Lakers also, Joe, absolutely red hot. Their line opened up at 2.5 points in this game. They're getting close to 66% of the tickets here with the line not moving, which means the Pistons getting less than 35% of the tickets tonight. The public, they don't want to back the Detroit Pistons, but as I like to say, Joe, nobody wants to take the Pistons tonight, but your boy DRS, he's taking the Pistons tonight. We got 2 public fades to start the week off, Joe. That sounds like a perfect 2-0 night on a Monday, no?
Well, in this NBA, yes, that is absolutely the way you cash tickets there, Donnie.
Investing in winners, which is what we do, which means coming up next, Prediction Markets Edge right here on the early line of the SportsGrid Network.
I wait until I get the tournament bracket. Then you'll see me start to talk about who makes a run, who's right to get picked off. You go back to last year, look at St. John's, right? They were on a roll. They got Arkansas, who was a better version of St. John's.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
You know, you don't usually get Alabama basketball booked at less than 160. You're getting that now here. The real question is Aiden Holloway done for the tournament for an Alabama team who, you know, we've seen under Nate Oates, they're more than capable of getting themselves to a Sweet 16 and Elite 8 and maybe even beyond that.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
9+ sounds pretty good here, Donnie, at around even money, right? Ooh. I got no problem there, trading at 54 cents. And again, all the pressure is on the higher seeds and the favorites, right? Start getting into that 4 or 5 minute mark in the second half, and you're down double digits. Some teams, it does not get better, Donnie. They don't pull themselves up off the court.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
NBA Central sent out a tweet yesterday. Hornets announcer Eric Collins says Jalen Duren is one of his favorite players to watch. Quote, I like talking about that body of his cut up like coleslaw, end quote. Interesting.
Yeah. Not quite sure what the reference to coleslaw is. No idea, Donnie. I have no idea.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.